Hari Om. Today we propose to take up two stanzas together, 9 and 10 of section 1 of chapter 2 of Mundaga. And with these two stanzas, the section 2 comes to an end. Now the 9th and 10th mantra I would now chant. 9th mantra reads, Ata samudra गिरियश्च सर्वे अस्मात् चन्ददे सिन्धव सर्वरूपा अतश्च सर्वा औषधयो रसश्च ये नैष भूतैस्तिष्ठते अन्तरात्मा. And the 10th and the concluding mantra of this section reads, Purusha evedam vishwam karma tapo brahma paramritam etat yo veda nihidam guhayam so vidya grandhim vigiratiha soumya iti Dvidiya Mundage Prathama Khanda is what it says. With this we conclude the section of this Upanishad. Now the meaning of the 9th mantra, literal meaning of the 9th mantra is, from the Purusha is born all the oceans and mountains, rivers of all names, all herbs and plants by which the subtle body exists, enriched by the gross elements of matter, or and not enriched, encircled by, not enriched, encircled by, yeah. And the 10th mantra says, that is the translation would be, He alone is all this universe, karma and tapas. This universe, this karma, this tapas, it is all He alone. All what we perceive, feel or think is Brahman alone, the highest and the immortal. O my Saumya, my well-behaved boy, he who knows this, understand, is one seated in the cavity of your heart, and he unties the knot of ignorance when he is here, right now and here. He becomes a Jivan Mukta, liberated while living. This is the literal translation of the mantras. Now we will try to examine and try to analyze what the Rishi wants to convey to us in fairly explanatory manner. Now in the earlier mantras, the Rishi very elaborately enumerated all the dynamic aspects of nature and the entire realm of living beings and things. After listening to this enumerated list, the student may entertain a doubt that from the Brahman or the Purusha came out only living organisms, and the inert and insentient matter may have a totally different source of existence. A legitimate doubt. In order to dispel such probable thoughts in the mind of the student, the Rishi here says that not only living beings, but also mountains, oceans, rivers, also emerge and manifest from the Supreme, the eternal truth. The river water, we all know, nourishes the earth and it becomes favorable and fertile for the plant kingdom to grow. And the sap in the plant or vegetables is consumed by men, which preserve and maintain these living beings, human beings. The food taken by men, we have seen, ultimately nurtures and nourishes the subtle body, the mind and the intellect equipment in addition to the body. The ultimate aim of the Shruti appears to be to drive home the truth that all the Nama Rupa, the names and forms, captured by our sense organs of perception, all our emotions and feelings, magneted by our mind, and the myriad thoughts that are entertained by the intellect, have unequivocally arisen from him, the Purusha. Everything has come from him. That there is nothing or none other than the reality, and the seemingly true world of objects, emotions and thoughts are unreal and are only ephemeral manifestations to be born, to live and die. Now the last and concluding mantra of this section summarizes to say that the entire world of names and forms, feelings and ideas are only a manifestation of the Purusha, which is a vital center in all beings and things and living beings or non-living beings. This spark of reality existing in us is unfortunately enveloped, as it were, by our own identification with our body, mind and intellect equipment. We identify ourselves as our body, as our mind, as our intellect, and we think that the body, mind and intellect is I am. And therefore, we are not able to recognize the spark of existence as yourself. What needs to be realized? That the body is mine and belongs to me. Think. The mind is mine and belongs to me. The intellect is mine and belongs to me. That is why we always say, my body, my mind, my intellect. Something that is mine cannot be me. It's not. What is mine, fine. But what is mine is not me. Hey, my car, my house, my money, my pen, my book, my chappal, my dog. All these are mine, fine, no doubt. But they are not me. My chappal is not me, my dog is not me. Hey, think. Therefore, your body is not you, your mind is not you, your intellect is not you. There is therefore something, we call it X, other than the body, the mind, the intellect, who possesses my body, my mind, and my intellect. There is something in me, I don't know what it is. There is something in me that possesses my body, my intellect, and my mind, who says that this is my body, this is my mind, this is my intellect. If thus the body, mind, and intellect are only mine but not me, who then is this me? This indeed is an important question to be answered. And remember, we cannot live without knowing who I am. I cannot live without knowing who I am. What are we talking? How can we ever live without knowing who I am? To realize that I am not the body, I am not my mind, I am not my intellect, but I am the Atman, the Self, the Supreme, the Reality, by whose grace my possessions of a body, of a mind, of an intellect parade in this world and make you believe that you are them, is to cut asunder all our self-inflicted, shackles and chains known in Vedanta as ignorance or avidya. It is this ignorance of the self in you, the real self in you, that creates the restlessness of samsara for all of us. Ignorance arises due to lack of knowledge. Isn't it? Non-apprehension of the reality, carefully, non-apprehension of the reality creates misapprehension of the world. Non-apprehension of the self, the supreme, the reality, the real self in me, because I don't apprehend it, that non-apprehension creates misapprehensions of my body, my mind and intellect, and I am deluded to conceive and think that I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect, and come to consequently suffer the lashes of the world. A sad case of mistaken identity. The moment the knowledge dawns, the ignorance disappears. Just as when you know it is a rope, the misconception of the snake vanishes ipso facto. As you are going across the road, you see a snake. You see the hoods. You see the tail. You see it moving. Everything you see. All the qualities of a snake is imposed. And you think it is a snake. Until at last, a fellow traveler puts his torch on the so-called snake, and eureka, you discover that it is not a snake, it is a rope. Did you really think it is a snake? Was your thought a reality? Did it not exist? The snake did exist or not? If you say it did not exist, then you are a fool. Now if you say it existed, then where is it now? The moment you know of the knowledge, the rope, the snake disappears and merges into the rope. The snake never went anywhere. The hood of the snake, the tail of the snake, the stomach of the snake, the double tongue of the snake, all this disappeared where? Into the rope. From where it came from the rope. Where did it exist? It existed in the rope. Where did it go? After the snake died, it went into the rope. This is the idea which our Shruti is trying to convey to us in this section. Let us see what new ideas, or in what other manner the existing ideas the Rishi presents us in the next section. We'll see that tomorrow. Hari Om.